In the suburbs of the city, at a power plant, a group of colleagues celebrates one of their birthdays when they notice something unusual on the surveillance screens. A dark form stirs in the background, and one of the employees goes to investigate, but is surprised by an unknown creature. He tries to return to the room, but is followed by a horde of monsters that invade the building and kill everyone they find. An eclipse covers the sun, and the monsters spread throughout the world, annihilating millions of people and devastating cities. The media calls this the Day of the Apocalypse, while military forces are mobilized to combat these monsters in a war that lasts throughout the eclipse. Millions of lives and tons of resources are consumed in the battle, but in the end, all creatures are eliminated, and humanity begins its recovery. To prevent a possible return of the creatures, they build defense structures called gates. The world remains at peace for 15 years. Hey, the movie I'm going to summarize is called Day of Reckoning. This is a science fiction movie trying to add suspense in the middle. I invite you to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to receive the best summaries. Dave is a poorly paid janitor at a company and sometimes has to go down into wells to remove dead animals. Laura is a teacher at the city school and grows close to Professor Milton, who always invites her out and she always refuses. Laura ended her marriage with Dave long ago and still has some issues to resolve, but today she finally accepts going out with Milton. Meanwhile, her son Tyler is with his girlfriend Maddie, who is nervous about the upcoming eclipse. Tyler reassures her, saying there's no reason to be alarmed since there have been several eclipses in the last 15 years, and nothing bad has happened. At the same time, Officer Garrett receives a call from one of the gate teams, requesting him to head there because they detected a strong earth tremor and containment was breached. When Garrett arrives at the gate, he senses that this time it's not a drill. He checks all systems, but soon a power box explodes, causing the loss of an entire network. In the city, Dave goes to pick up Tyler at Laura's house, and while the boy enjoys playing video games, the parents get into a conflict. The reason is that Laura was waiting for Tyler during the last disaster and Dave didn't support her, and she still hasn't forgiven him. Tyler leaves with his father, leaving the others behind. In the middle of the night, Dave answers the phone and hears Uncle Ted, who believes the end of the world will be the next day, and asks Dave to bring his family to his shelter before the eclipse. Tyler follows the news and is frightened to see millions of dead fish on the beach sands. This is one of the signs that occurred 15 years ago. Suddenly, the first monster appears at the gate, climbing the stairs silently. Laura also calls Dave, saying she saw the news and wants Tyler to come home soon because Milton has secured a shelter. Laura and Dave are fighting because Laura doesn't want Tyler to leave. During the argument, Tyler receives a message that makes him escape without Dave noticing. Dave only discovers Tyler is gone when he sees a paper in his room with Maddie's number. Laura is worried about Tyler, but Milton has no patience. He says they need to go to the shelter soon because it's getting full. Laura tells him Tyler disappeared, and Milton uses a special program to locate his phone at the skate park. There, Tyler is with Maddie, who is very distressed and scared because her parents left. Tyler says he won't abandon her like his father did to him. A loud roar echoes through the air, and the sky fills with birds in large groups, indicating another sign of the end times. People in the park run away scared, and soon the streets are full of families trying to escape the city. Dave is stuck in a huge traffic jam, but upon seeing the birds flying, he leaves his car and continues searching on foot. At the gate, the employees are checking systems when they hear strange noises. A monster suddenly appears and attacks one of the men. Garrett runs while other military personnel fire, but it seems regular bullets don't affect the creature. Shortly after, Dave finally finds Tyler and Maddie, just as emergency alarms begin to sound throughout the city. Luckily, Laura arrives with Milton, and they pick up all three in his car. With just over an hour until the eclipse, the city is in pandemonium. With people wanting to flee, there's traffic on all roads. The family gets stuck for a while and sees fanatics circulating among the cars, terrifying drivers with their painted faces and belief that the end is near. When Milton finally finds a gap, he accelerates as much as he can and manages to take the family to the shelter. Unfortunately, there's chaos here too, with many people begging for space inside, while the military says only women and children are accepted. Tyler receives Dave's order to take shelter with Laura and Maddie, but he changes his mind after entering and runs back to his father's side, stating he would never abandon him. They accompany him, and at that moment, the panel indicates there are no more vacancies in the shelter. They return to the car and discuss alternatives. Dave prefers to go to Ted's shelter in the desert, while Milton proposes hiding in the school, which is closer and has a basement. They get stuck in another traffic jam, then exit the car when a tremor shakes the area and the eclipse begins. As the world falls into darkness, monsters emerge to attack. They quickly dominate the city and kill without mercy, as happened 15 years ago. Dave wants to leave the city and take the wheel, but Milton gets angry because it's his car and he has a plan to save everyone. They start fighting, and Milton punches Dave, but they are interrupted by a winged creature that descends and carries Milton away. Laura screams, and Dave throws her into the car and takes control to escape the city with his family. While driving on the road, they discuss possible explanations for the monsters, questioning whether they are a divine work or not. After some time, the car runs out of gas, and Dave needs to find another to continue. He stops near a pile of abandoned cars and looks inside them, seeing they're full of corpses. When he finds an empty one, he gets in but is surprised by the driver who was hiding in the back seat, who pulls him down, showing there's a monster nearby. The creature continues searching for more prey among the cars, and when passing by the two men, luckily doesn't notice them and moves on. Soon after, the creature finds one of the corpses and starts devouring it. Then, very carefully and quietly, Dave pushes the car back to Laura and the kids. At this moment, the two cars are side by side, and Laura and the kids try to go from one car to the other. They are very quiet, but the creature still detects them and runs after them. The man gets out of the car and throws salt on the monster, but this only delays it for a moment, and soon it jumps on the man to eat him. The family takes advantage of this distraction to finally escape the area, taking a deserted mountain road while hordes of monsters invade the city from all sides. After a long time, they reach Ted's shelter, which is a concrete fortress. The doors are locked, and there are cameras up high, but no one appears when the family screams and pounds on the door, begging to enter. What they don't know is that Ted is at his computer, watching them on the cameras while someone holds a gun to his head. At that moment, a horde of monsters appears in the mountains and heads toward the shelter. While the family despairs, Dave grabs a wrench to defend his family, but then the bunker door finally opens and they run inside. The family reunites with Ted and his wife Stella, but they're also startled to see Garrett. Apparently, Garrett's father was Ted's war friend, and he got separated from his group, so he came here seeking help. Garrett has a gun, which makes Dave suspicious of him. Later, they eat together but become tense when they see on the screens the monsters forcing their way through the door. The radio is useless, as it only transmits screams. Maddie wants to know how the monsters find them, and Garrett says they are sensitive to light and heat, but he wonders if they see people's souls. He also tells how he escaped the first Judgment Day. He was an employee at a refinery, and when the monsters attacked the place, he jumped into a salt mud pit. He covered himself and had to listen to the monsters murdering all his friends and colleagues. The only thing that can defeat the monsters is salt. That's why he was saved. Garrett talks non-stop about what happened to him, while Ted signals Dave to grab a knife and hide it in his clothes. Not seeing that on the other side of the window, a creature that looks like a centipede enters through a gap in the screen. Garrett says he'll keep watch first, and Ted suggests that the others stay awake and play cards, giving Dave a look. But Garrett notices the look and draws the gun from his waist, making Dave drop the knife, and tells that Ted didn't want him to stay with them, and that Stella was the only one who had compassion. He escaped once and is determined to escape again, whatever it takes. Suddenly, Tyler attacks Garrett to try to take his gun, but Garrett easily pushes him away. A fight breaks out, but Maddie interrupts it, saying the monsters have disappeared. At that moment, the centipede-like creature jumps on the wall and attacks Stella. Ted removes the creature that was stuck to his wife's neck and salts it, while Dave punches Garrett to take his gun and shoots at the monster. The small creature escapes all the shots, but Maddie hits it with the knife. Then they restrain Garrett and bandage Stella, but she needs urgent medical attention. They see on the monitor that a huge monster is pounding on the front door, wanting to enter. Dave says they have to escape, but Ted doesn't want to leave, saying his wife can't handle being in the open air. Stella convinces him to go and tells about the secret passage under the bunker that goes to the mountains. Garrett says he has a car with gas and can take everyone to the gate where the monsters came from, and the group wonders why they would go to a place where the monsters came from. Garrett said it's empty there, and there's a room to withstand the invasion. The group decides to trust Garrett. Before leaving, Ted shows that he has lots of weapons, and everyone takes one. The group enters the tunnel, and Dave opens the front door and shoots the first creature that appears before joining them. Why did he open the front door? It doesn't make any sense, although nothing in this movie makes sense. But continuing, after the tunnel is safely closed, they leave and see that Stella is walking with difficulty because she's turning into a creature too. Later, they walk along a road and Tyler sees a monster standing there. The monster appears to be dead, but Tyler prevents Maddie from touching it. She turns around and a long tentacle comes out of a hole in the ground and grabs her legs, pulling her down. Maddie screams non-stop, and Tyler and Dave hold her, while Laura shoots at the tentacle to release her. When Maddie is free, they run, and Garrett asks Dave to untie his rope so he can help if there's another attack. But they don't know that Dave is injured in the arm. After some time, they reach the mountain peak and observe the burning city. They come across Garrett's car, but are devastated to find it doesn't work. Soon after, monsters appear at the top of the mountain and advance on them, so Garrett does everything to start the car while Stella takes Ted's gun to kill herself before transforming. Ted quickly gets into a conflict with her until he takes the gun back and begs her to get in the car, but Dave understands it's useless and pulls Ted away. Stella waits for the monsters, and they devour her without delay. After starting the car, Garrett and his friends escape from the monsters. During the escape, they tune into a radio and discover that most shelters were invaded and destroyed by the enemies, including the one they were going to take refuge in at the beginning, and the school too. They finally reach the gate, but there's no response on the radio, and the door is wide open. They enter cautiously and notice that everything is dark, so Garrett and Dave take charge of restoring power, while the others look for a medical kit as they notice Ted is injured in the back. While Ted receives care from the others, Dave works to restore the light, and Garrett tells that the gate was ready for a new attack and that they had filled it with seawater, but the depth was too great. When the light comes back on, Dave and Garrett resume their way, but suddenly Garrett notices blood dripping on his hand and sees a corpse at the same time that a roar echoes from the darkness. The two run back to the group to talk about what to do since the eclipse ends in 2 hours, and Garrett suggests taking shelter in a chemical storage facility as its doors resist explosions. As soon as they leave the infirmary, a mutant human attacks Garrett, who defends himself with Dave's help. They defeat the creature, but the sound they made attracts more monsters. Scared, Garrett runs through a door and locks it, abandoning the others. Then, he uses a syringe to protect himself from the change. Dave leads his family to another room and sees there are pipes there, indicating that the reservoir is on the other side of the wall. He has a plan. He'll send the salt water through the reservoir pipes to drive away the creatures. Before going, Laura gives him a kiss. Soon after, the door breaks down and the family escapes. Dave goes through the air duct, observing a creature devouring its victim in a room. Upon reaching the reservoir, he opens the tap very slowly, and the water starts filling the buckets. Next, Dave returns, but the creature notices him and chases him, catching his leg. Dave struggles and throws salt on the creature, which turns to dust. Meanwhile, the monsters surround the others, and Tyler shoots at them. Dave's voice comes over the loudspeaker, ordering them to trigger the fire alarm. Ted tells Tyler to take care of the family, and goes after the monsters with an axe. But many monsters attack him at once and tear him apart. Tyler continues shooting, but runs out of ammunition, so he triggers the fire alarm, and the salt water falls on the monsters, who turn to dust and howl in agony. When the eclipse ends, the monsters return to their world through the portal, causing another earthquake. Laura and the children also try to escape, but they encounter Garrett, who is going crazy because of the transformation. He shoots Tyler and hits his shoulder, but before shooting again, Dave appears behind him and hits him in the head with a fire extinguisher. Dave joins his family and sees a huge monster emerge from the ground and attack Garrett, swallowing him alive. The family runs to the infirmary and makes a saline solution in a drum, which they throw at the monster when it breaks down the door, killing it instantly. Then the family goes outside and sees the whole world devastate, but now they are prepared to rebuild it, so that's it. Leave that like, subscribe to the channel, comment what you would do to survive, and until the next summary,